Hello friends and welcome to the latest Kings of Anglia Ipswich Town podcast brought to you in association with manscaped.com. Go and buy up all those quality products. Use the code KOA to get 20% off and free delivery. The whole damn team is here, I'm pleased to say, and I'm going to start today with young Roscoe Halls, who, if you're watching on video, you will see is sporting an international football top, which is not England. An absolute disgrace, Roscoe. You claim to be half Italian. You've got links to the mafia in Naples, familial links. And obviously, you're very excited. We're recording this on Tuesday. Your boys face Spain tonight. How are you feeling?
Ooh, Forza Italia, Forza Azzurri, as you say. Bella.
Listen to that Italian accent, boys.
Yeah.
Forza Italia, bro.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, it's they've been. You can say they're the favourites at the moment. Of course, England because it's coming home. But yeah, should be interesting.
I think they are the favourites, aren't they? Haven't they won like 15 games in a row? Something ridiculous, your boys.
32, I think, or 32. Like they're undefeated 32 games.
But they've actually won 15 games in a row, haven't they?
Which is
unheard of, including qualifying. So, are you feeling positive that your boys are going to get it done tonight?
Yeah, if they use the same tricks as they did against Belgium, falling over and stuff, then I think we've got the win right there.
That's the classic Italian tactic, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much.
They brought that
and
to
defending.
The world. And defending, of course. And also looking incredibly debonair and suave in their quality blue kits. They've got that.
And Mancini in his suit.
Yeah.
Mancini's suit just looks so
Never mind
cool.
Mancini in his suit. I love the fact that even the physio runs on in his in his dancing shoes and his grey jacket as well. Even the physios needs to sprint on to bring the magic sponge. Even he's looking like he's suited and booted.
I bloody love Italy, boys. I've never felt more out of place and less fashionable than when I've been to Italy because everyone looks good on the streets of Italy. It's a beautiful place, obviously.
Even me when I go there.
Yeah, even it's very, very stylish indeed. I'd highly recommend Italy if you've not been there. Hutchie, have you been to Italy? You're wearing a Raiders top today. Las Vegas Raiders, that is now. Have you ever been to Italy, my friend?
Been to Italy many times. Lovely, lovely place.
Do you make an effort while you're there? Do you dress up, 3-piece suit on the street, that kind of thing?
No. Do I know dress up? The thing that I love about Italy in this tournament is the Mancini Vialli bromance that's going on here. The pictures of them back in their playing days and then them hugging now in their matching suits and just when Italy score, obviously Mancini's on the touchline, he's going mad, and then Vialli runs down he's up in the dugout and he runs down and they hug each other. It's lovely.
Yeah, I bloody love Italy. Everything about Italian football is sexy. Maybe apart from actually watching the Serie A games because they can be a bit dull. Stewie, you're sexy and dull. How are you, my friend?
I'm not sure how to respond to that.
It's a segue.
I don't know what to say, Mark. Am I both those things? I don't.
Who's to say?
Maybe the latter.
Yeah. How are you anyway, my friend? You okay?
I'm good.
Superb. You boys, of course, have just enjoyed your last weekend off for a while. Or those two, you've got a bit of holiday coming up, he says, remembering. Boys, we're here to talk about Ipswich Town. So let's do just that. Since we last convened, there have been a lot more sexy stuff, links, stories, things that you boys have broken. So again, in time-honoured tradition, we're going to do it in chronological order, starting with the most recent. And the most recent is a young man called Sante, as I seem to recall Big Mitt used to call him. Bersant Celina. This is not a drill. Ipswich Town are actually interested in bringing Bersant back to Portman Road. Stuart or Hutchie, which one of you wants to take this one, start with it, and let's run with it?
Go on, Mr. Captain Dull. Off you go.
I'll try. Yeah, they're more than interested. They're actively in negotiations to bring him back to Ipswich. I was obviously a big loan hit in the. Go on, give me the season.
17-18.
Yeah,
17-18 season. He's gone on to play. He went to Swansea. Off the back of that season for reported £3 million, went there, had a couple of seasons in the Championship with Swansea, then had another decent money move to French top flight side Dijon last September. So he's just had a season playing for them. They've been relegated out of the top flight of French football. They'll need to cut their budget accordingly, and so Mr. Celina is available, and Ipswich have been quietly working on this one, from what we understand, for a number of weeks, 4 or 5 weeks. The story of their interest obviously became public over the weekend, and now there's a few little nerves, I think, that the deal could get hijacked. There's a few Championship clubs now starting to sniff around him, but if they could get this done, boy, that would be big.
We're talking a permanent deal, are we, as opposed to a loan? Actually signing him.
Not 100% on that one at the moment. My gut instinct, and I don't know this for a fact, is that a permanent deal off the bat would probably be beyond Ipswich. Talk that he's on as much as £20,000 a week at Dijon. Possibly could there be a loan situation, thinking out loud, where Ipswich kind of pick up half of that in contributions or some sort of percentage of it, and then have that kind of first option to buy, or even sometimes you can have that sort of compulsory buy clause if Ipswich were to get promoted. That sort of situation, possibly. I mean, that could be the situation with any of the loans that Ipswich get this year, that you suddenly sometimes you then have you have to buy them if you get promoted, essentially. So I'm not 100% sure on what the terms of this deal are, but it's something Ipswich are very, very serious about doing, and I'm sure it's a name that really made people sit up and take notice when it came out.
Hutchie, Bersant Celina back at Town. We've talked about Matt Crooks signing being a statement. This would be an Uber statement. And where would you see him fitting into this revolution? I note from the PC boys have done, there was a line in there saying that he's interested in being part of the story at Ipswich.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot in itself. Even if they don't get it done, and there's still real hope that they do. Even if they don't, players like him are interested in it. Obviously, it's a different time. He's a different player now, but this is a player that at the time in 2018 was kind of beyond Ipswich's reach in the transfer market when they were a stable Championship club at the end of the Mick McCarthy reign. They'd had the succession of them, Brian Fraser, Tom Lawrence, and then him. And at the end of every season, we knew full well that Ipswich weren't in a position to keep their kind of star winger, creative attacking midfielder permanently, and that another one would need to be found. Sadly, the one that came in that following someone was Jordan Graham. Didn't quite happen. But it's just an example of where the club are at now, where the ambition is, and the ambition is the main thing here for me. Is that I think when this one initially kind of crept out over the weekend, it was seen as a little bit of a joke potentially by some that they can't get a player like him, but that they think that they can.
Wow, Rossi, I know your WhatsApp groups have been firing with Celina stuff. If Town can make it happen, how good would that be?
As I quote you, it'll be flames.
It will be flames.
Flames.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just wow. League One, Bersant, he will rip League One apart. You'd hope so anyway. I went back to watch his goals he scored. And I think all of them were fantastic. Just dribbling around all the players. You see players falling down behind him as he goes and strikes. The free kick against Burton, where fans were shouting his name, get him on, and then he took the free kick and scores, and his shirt was off and into the crowd. I was in that away end at Burton that day, and what a statement if this does go through.
Do you know where? Sorry, Hutch, you were about to say something.
He's good, like. Remembering him, but this was obviously in the Championship. He had his inconsistencies. Like he didn't rip up the Championship. He was good for Ipswich. He played very well. He was something that they didn't have. But the thing I liked about him most is just the positive first touch that he had. That's my big memory of him. That in a team where so many others didn't play on the front foot potentially at times, and it was a bit cagey and cautious. He was one that would do that and play on the front foot, and even if it didn't come off, he was looking to make something happen. I think we have to remember it didn't happen every week with him. There were reasons why he didn't start every week. I think only 20 odd of those appearances were Championship starts, but you'd have to hope at League One with a few more years of experience behind him that he would be. You're talking similar kind of level to 8, like McGeady in League One, where other opposition teams would look at him, different players, of course, but you'd look at them and think there's a star man on the pitch here. Not many League One teams have a player like that. Sunderland do in McGeady, and he's come up with the goods for them, particularly linking up with Charlie Wyke. And the hope would have to be that Ipswich would have a star in relative terms, and that's exciting.
It almost seems ludicrous, doesn't he, that Town could have a player like that in League One, because every other team in League One would be terrified of Bersant Celina, you'd think. Stewie, do you know what kind of stage we're at with this? You say his interest, as you'd expect for a player like Celina from the Championship. What kind of stage are we at?
I can't really add a huge amount more than what I've already said, in that it has got quite advanced in terms of negotiations with him and Dijon and his representatives. But there is now a vibe that we're getting is that the game, now that it's in the public domain, the game may have changed slightly. And Andy's put in his story this morning that there's some Championship interest from the likes of Haaland, Coventry. So that's probably where he's at the moment. A player who was maybe seen as very talented, but perhaps a bit of an attacking luxury at sort of Championship level. So therefore might not get him the top end Championship interest. The bottom end of the Championship might be restricted in what they can do this summer because of the financial mess that the second tier finds itself in. And that is what Ipswich are possibly able to shop in the market they are at the moment, because the Championship finds itself in complete disarray. As we know, it's a complete basket case of a division financially at the best of times. That's been completely exacerbated by a year of COVID. It didn't get the same sort of financial help as League One did. So that, coupled with Ipswich's new ownership, means that they are able to go toe-to-toe with certainly bottom-end Championship clubs for players like these. That, coupled with the fact that Celina has been at Ipswich, presumably enjoyed his time here, means that they are able to potentially do a deal that nobody thought would have been possible.
He was a big fan of a hairdresser in Ipswich, wasn't he? I seem to remember. There was a particular hairdresser he used to go to.
They'll be excited, won't they?
Absolutely.
Rubbing there.
For a short period, I sported a Bersant Celina-esque haircut until I saw a picture of us boys. It actually was doing the podcast, and I thought, that's not age appropriate anymore, Heath. You need to wise up. You need to change that. Roscoe, what are you saying?
Can I? I'm going to put a picture up. Can you remember his signing picture? He was very miserable, wasn't he? Wasn't very just.
Yeah, but isn't that what they all do now? Because they're too cool to smile, aren't they, footballers? You don't smile.
Yeah.
Look at that watch he's wearing as well, Roscoe. I bet that's worth a few quid.
Yeah.
Boys, anything else to add on Celina before we move on to the next exciting link?
Not really. I think from Dijon's point of view, they clearly need to move him on. French, talk about the Championship being a basket case. Liga and Ligue 2 are an absolute state at the moment. They've got no TV deal. The previous one I think just defaulted and has vanished, and they've been auctioning off television rights for the top two leagues in France, and none of them have hit the reserve, like the very, very bottom end reserve price. So there's currently no TV deal whatsoever in French football, which isn't good, because clubs rely on that, particularly when you're not having any supporters through the door for an entire season. So in terms of getting the deal done with Dijon, I think that's probably the easy part of this one.
Is anyone else adding in mustard every time someone says Dijon, by the way? I'm doing it in my head quietly. I'm sure everyone else is doing it. Boys, basket case. I love that term. That's one of my favourite parts of the football vernacular. Something's a basket case. Where's that come from? Is it a football thing, or is it just a general kind of term? Because it seems to get used a lot in football chat.
I don't think it's exclusive to football, is it? I'm pretty confident with that. But as for its origins, I'm not sure. I'll have to go and look that one up.
I'll maybe do some Googling while you boys are talking. Next up,
all I'd add, Mark, before we move on, is that I said sort of right at the start of this summer window that I think people picked up on it at the time, that I said the targets are going to be ambitious, perhaps even higher than many people were anticipating, and that sort of piqued people's interest. And I think now some of these names that are coming out shows where Ipswich's levels of ambition are at under these new owners. We're probably going to go on and talk about Matt Crooks' situation now, but the likes of Crooks and Celina, I think the business that they've done thus far has been good, solid, more than solid, exciting. But I still think some of the marquee signings are to come still. That feels like the case, that the players at the top end of the pitch, which is where the issues were last season, creativity and goals, are still to come, really. So, this is where things really start to hot up now. We're only a week into July. We're still pretty early in the transfer window. I know people are going, well, they're back in pre-season and the first game is on Saturday at Dartford, but there's still a long way to go in this transfer window, and I still think Ipswich's most exciting business is to come.
Okay, just before we move on, I have literally just Googled basket case and where it comes from. It's pretty dark, boys. I'm not really sure how it fits into the football vernacular, but we're all about edutainment, aren't we? Education and entertainment. So in the form of education, here we go. The term originated in America after the First World War, and it was used for a soldier missing both his arms and legs who needed to be literally carried around in a litter or basket, though there are no records of any soldiers actually being carried in baskets. So that's pretty dark. I'm not really sure how that applies to describing the Championship as a basket case, but there you go.
Well, it's been kind of blown to bits.
Well, I suppose, yeah. Yeah, why not?
I'm not sure I'm that keen on it as an expression anymore.
No, there you go. So there you go. There's your education for today. Moving on to entertainment, boys. This has to happen, this next one, because I've already got a nickname for him. Arvin Appiah, double A. If we call him Awesome Arvin Appiah, we can call him Triple A, which I like. Who wants to take this one? Hutchie, do you want to go with Arvin Appiah? Tell us what the latest is. What's happening with this young man?
Well, they've just heard what his nickname is going to be, and that is it. They've pulled the plug. They've pulled the plug on this deal.
Doesn't matter because he runs on batteries.
Hey.
Let's see what he done. Let's see what he did there. Very good. Very good. Arvin Appiah is currently playing in Spain for Almeria. But people probably best know him for bursting onto the scene at Nottingham Forest, where he was a teen kind of broke through there. Similar kind of player to Celina, really. Left-footed, mainly plays on the right, cutting in on that left foot, but can obviously play on either side as most players in that mould can. He's still young. He's ended up in Spain in a big money move from Forest, but it's not really gone very well for him over there. He's not played much football, certainly not for his parent club Almeria, and he's ended up on loan at Lugo, another second division club in Spain. But he's got good pedigree, obviously coming through Forest, young England international in years past. And for me, this one feels like it's not on the level of Celina, and it wouldn't be a surprise potentially if this one was maybe either a backup plan to Celina or more of a squad player with a long-term look on him, but he's definitely one they like.
Stu, Appiah, thoughts?
The fact that Ipswich are looking at signing a player that went for £8 million not so long ago, and Celina's had combined fees of £5-6 million behind him in recent years, it's just another marker of where Ipswich are at in the window at the moment. Has been, as Andy says, in England youth teams all the way up to under 19 level, would have rubbed shoulders with the likes of Saka and Sessegnon and Gibbs White and Greenwood, people like that. So that gives you an idea of the pedigree that he's at.
He would have played with Raheem Harper as well, won't he? That kind of age.
Yes, they will have. Yeah, I think there's a year between them, but they have sort of played in same England age group teams at a time as well. And we'll come on to Lewis Gibson in a minute, who also sort of falls in that same sort of age group category for England teams. So that says to me that Ipswich, as much as the core plan is we've talked a lot about getting these battle-ready League One Championship hardened players at that prime age of 26, 27, 28 that can hit the ground running. They are going to have to supplemented by some younger ones. And obviously, if you're ploughing a big part of your funds into some of these marquee signings, you have got the salary cost management protocol rules to consider. 60% of turnover limited to wages. The good thing is that players under the age of 21 don't count towards that. So hence why Ipswich are probably looking at some of these, good young players that, as Andy says, twofold. Hopefully they can come in, add a bit of excitement and fearlessness that comes with youth, and potentially turn you a bit of a profit further down the line. But also they will need to be kind of mixed in with your Lee Evans and hopefully your Matt Crooks and people like that along the way as well.
It's an interesting one, that the kind of the salary thing and how that all adds up. Like, obviously, the way that League One operates generally is that there aren't big transfer fees going around because clubs can't pay them. So the wage is the thing that the SCMP is covering, because that's the biggest kind of disparity between clubs generally, is being able to pay transfer fees. But Ipswich are in this unique position where there is some capital to pay transfer fees. I remember when this first came in, the first summer, we were talking about SCMP. There was talk about selling Flynn Downs and people like that at that point. And we kind of came to the conclusion that it made absolutely no sense to kind of sell Flynn Downs for £4 million, because Ipswich was so tight against that cap that they couldn't have spent that money on fees anyway for the players because of the wage issue. But if you're doing that now with younger players, that in theory their wages shouldn't be as high, but you can maybe invest a little bit of money into their fee to get them here in the first place. Ipswich are just in a really strange position with this SCMP, that it doesn't apply to them in the same way that it did 2 years ago. It doesn't feel, it's all coming at them from different angles. And like Stu said earlier, they're in such a good position in terms of basically being able to operate financially as a bottom half championship club at this point, relatively. So it's it does feel like a bit of a sweet spot Ipswich have managed to get themselves in due to the change of ownership.
Rossi, we just talked there about two quality players, Celina and Appiah. Slightly differently, they're both playing abroad, and we haven't really seen Town look at foreign Johnnies, players playing abroad, for some time, have we? So do you think that's a kind of a shift in approach for you at Town? Is that something they should be doing more of?
Yes and no, because we won't get into Brexit because that's a whole different conversation, and we don't want to talk about that. But I'm sure that's a bit different. But maybe with them, because they're both been living in England before, it's probably maybe easier for them to sort out maybe visas and stuff. I don't know. I'm probably going down a different hole we want to go down. But they're not, say, foreign players who are going to have to learn the language and stuff. They're already played here before. But yeah, it's a different way of doing the transfers. We haven't had that many players coming from abroad for a while. We've only had like Jonas Knudsen and those sort of players, and that's just once every few years we get those sort of players. But it's exciting, and it's a different way of the transfers, how we get around with the new owners, and very ambitious. And yeah, he's another young player, but he's got the pedigree, and he's played with the likes of those players that you mentioned. So yeah, really, really intrigued with this one.
Stuart, are you aware of any kind of shift towards more overseas scouting at Town with the change of ownership and the mass change of backroom and management side team?
No, with those sort of two names that we've mentioned, I wouldn't imagine that's suddenly a huge shift in recruitment at the moment. Celina is obviously a name that will be well known to a lot of people. Appiah is obviously someone that has played in England, and I imagine their knowledge of him has probably come through the England youth system and players that he's, you mentioned Harper is someone he's played with, and other links as well. So I imagine that's probably their knowledge of him has come through that, rather than suddenly having a Spanish football expert that's suddenly come on board. They're still in the process of really sort of building up the recruitment team under the new ownership at the moment. I think it is quite a traditional method of a combination of sort of Paul Cook, Francis Jeffers, Gary Roberts, all their various connections to clubs across the country where they've worked with before, players that they've worked with and seen with their own eyes, combined with kind of Mark Ashton's data dashboard that he's brought across from Bristol City and all his guys working behind the scenes. Those two things working in conjunction is what's leading us to the signings and the targets so far.
I'd love to see the data dashboard, wouldn't you? I think it's a closely guarded secret, but the way he described it to me it sounded a bit like almost his personal Sky Sports ticker in his office with all various bits of information and behind the scenes stuff being fed in from various sources.
I think a lot of it, from what I gather, is to kind of make sure you've got an up-to-date idea of market value. So a big part of it is to work out who's going for what, not necessarily players that. It's not all about players that you necessarily want, but it's getting an idea of when you come to the negotiating table with a player, you've got a really solid idea of, okay, so a 21-year-old who's coming from a championship club that's got a year left on his contract, you can punch all of that in and you can start to work out, a bit like it's no different to valuing a house, working out what other houses in that area have gone for. You're trying to work out whether you're not going to be overpaying for someone and what their true value is. So I think that's a big part of the data dashboard, from what I gather.
That's one of your key summer tasks for me, boys. Aside from bringing all these transfer exclusives, which you're doing admirably thus far, is get a little insight. I want you to see the data dashboard. I know you boys and Ashton will probably sit down around a table at some point. Demand to see the data dashboard because we need to tell the KOA Army about it. It'd be tremendous to get a little insight into that. Hutchie, do you reckon it? I think you touched on it earlier. Is it either or with Celina and Appiah, or could Town potentially be where they want both?
To be quite honest, I don't know. I don't see a reason why it couldn't be both. They need players in that area of the field, but make no mistake about which one of those two is the bigger fish for Town this summer. It's Celina. So I think if it came down to any kind of decision between the two, it's a slam dunk which one they're going for. There's eggs in the Celina basket. They want to get that deal done.
I love
very light on the wing positions, aren't they? Really, you've got Wes Burns at the moment, who may end up playing right back depending on the fitness of Kane Vincent-Young. Touch wood, hopefully he'll be fine. But beyond that, there's not a great deal. Armando Dobra, who's kind of started off with the 23s and come back up to the first, but I can't see him being sort of someone that Paul Cook's got earmarked for a starting position. So they need players on both sides. They need multiple signings in those positions, I would suggest.
I'm pretty confident one of those will end up being Michael Jacobs from Portsmouth. I'd be at this point quite surprised if that didn't end up being one of those. But I think if you just look at Celina, it's pretty clear that that's potentially the level of starter that we're talking about here. Jacobs may be brought in as one to kind of cover all three of those positions and provide really good cover there. Not messing about.
I'm excited, boys. This is tremendously exciting. And I want to take the segue there. You referred to Celina as a big fish, Hutchie. Someone else who's a big fish, literally, is a big unit. Matt Crooks, Stewie. Have we got ourselves a genuine Ipswich Town transfer saga? Because there's already been a couple of bids go in. They've been rejected. Are we going to get a back and forth? Is it going to be played out in the media? How good is it that this is the situation with Matt Crooks? And what's the latest as you understand it there?
I think we have got a transfer saga on our hands, haven't we? We go back. I'm reminded of David Norris. That was played out sort of quite publicly over an extended period of time, wasn't it? Before Ipswich finally got him. And much like Norris, they really want him. And it's someone that I don't think the interest is going to go away in him. I do think there is a deal to be done there. Ipswich have started out with a 400 grand offer that was very quickly rejected. They've come in again at a level of around 600, which has also been rejected. Paul Warne, the Rotherham manager, has been speaking quite publicly about that being way, way below their valuation of the player and that they value him well into the seven figures. From the conversations I've had, I think originally they thought about £2 million was his market value. I think they've probably dropped that a little bit in their minds to about 1.5 now. And I think the two clubs will meet in the middle at some point, no doubt about it, because as much as Rotherham don't want to lose him, he's in the final year of his contract. And they've just come down from the Championship. And we've just talked about the financial issues in the Championship. They've just had a year playing behind closed doors. They won't be in a position at some point. The money will be too good for them to turn down. Now, the issue here is how long Rotherham and Crooks potentially want to hold out for Championship interest. I don't think Championship clubs are in a position to make their move just yet. We understand it's the likes of Peterborough, Middlesbrough, Who else, Andy, have I missed?
Derby, but they've got their own. Derby really want him, but I think Derby would quite like a lot of players, but just aren't in a place.
For Rotherham and Crooks, is it a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush? Do you wait all summer, hoping that Derby come in, but who knows how their financial situation is going to unfold? They're under a transfer embargo at the moment. Peterborough, are they having to wait for, example, Clark Harris to be sold later in the summer to open up the doors to do other stuff? So I'm sure Crooks wants to stay in the Championship deep down, and Rotherham have made it pretty clear that they would rather he went to a Championship club. Ipswich will pay a premium to get him, because Rotherham does not send the right vibes to their fans if you're selling one of your star players to a promotion rival in the same division. But I think Ipswich will be prepared to pay that premium. Don't get me wrong, they'll be tough negotiators and they won't be taken for mugs, but I think that tipping point should be met pretty soon. And the hope is that both Rotherham and Crooks ultimately will want to take a good offer that's on the table early, rather than sort of trying to hold their nerve and wait for interest that may or may not come from elsewhere.
Well, this is where Ashton earns his corn, isn't it? Because this is what he's got a track record of doing so well at. He's a negotiator. He gets good deals incoming and he gets good fees outgoing as well. So I think this is where Ipswich will really benefit from having a man like him sort of at the helm, like steering the ship. This one reminds me a little bit of the ultimately failed Curtis Tilt transfer saga from 2018, which we've not had the formal transfer request from Crooks yet, which that card got played by Tilt too early, if I'm completely honest, in that one. But I think it's very clearly in saga territory to have managers speaking about it publicly. Paul Warner is pretty transparent. Maybe what the aim of speaking publicly like that is to do, and I think that's probably to get the best price possible for a player they don't want to lose. So yeah, we're in saga territory, but there are a few more chapters of that still to go, I'm sure.
A phrase somebody used to me this week when I was talking to someone about this Crooks situation is that it's all about timing your run in the transfer market, a bit like timing your run in the box on the pitch. Quite often it's about the timing of your transfer bid and whether you go too early or you leave it too late. And have Ipswich gone too early with this one? That would be the question mark here, because once the negotiations start, the prices start to go up. And if Rotherham hold out too long, who holds their nerve the longest? Do Ipswich, will they have a moment where they think we can't hang around all summer for this one and we move on to other targets? Does the Crooks camp, are they left to rue that they think that once the Ipswich boat has sailed and then the other interest doesn't come in, that they're all the factors that are at play here? But my gut feeling is this gets done.
Fingers crossed. It is interesting, isn't it, boys? Like you say, Hutchie, with Warren talking about Crooks, we've also had Cowley talking about Ipswich talking to Jacobs, and we've had the Pompey CEO this morning say that Ipswich is spending big money. To hear people speak so openly about the money that Ipswich have got and the interest that Ipswich have got, that is clearly designed to drive up prices for their players, isn't it? And
potentially, I'm not sure that the Pompey guys particularly. He's talking about Sunderland spending big money. They've not signed anybody. They've not brought anybody in. And Wigan, with the greatest of respect to Wigan, are kind of rebuilding a squad that they had to completely dismantle a year ago because of the horrible administration that they went through. And then Ipswich are obviously potentially maybe a bit different to the rest of those. Ipswich may be the one that are kind of spending decent money, but I don't think anything that they've done so far is kind of hugely wild. I wouldn't say. Maybe kind of Celina. Celina's obviously a little bit different, but in terms of Wes Burns, Lee Evans, they're two players that were playing in League One last season. Hladky was playing in League Two, and that's kind of a deal that's probably in the £200,000 to £300,000 region. Matt Penny is a free transfer who was released by Sheffield Wednesday. I think, like Stu says, in terms of if you're talking about marquee signings and things that maybe would get the Portsmouth CEO kind of little bit hot under the collar. That's kind of still to come in terms of what's has and hasn't happened.
Speaking of hot under the collar, Rossi, you are the voice of the fans, host of KOA Fan Social among your many other podcasts in your empire. And Matt Crooks, what kind of impression do you get from fans as to how much they want Matt Crooks here and how important he would be in terms of someone that Town could sign this summer? I.e., if Crooks gets away for whatever reason, is that going to be a major blow, do you think, for fans, or will they be fairly sanguine about it?
I think they will be, but then I think some fans probably understand that he may want to stay in the Championship. He's just proven himself. I know he just got relegated with Rotherham, but he's proven he can score in that division. He can bully defenders. So I think fans will be disappointed. I think they're excited that it's being linked. When we saw him play against Town before, and we've said this before, he bullied us in those 2 games. And yeah, I think if there's no other option after Crooks, and that's maybe fans will go, they're a bit worried. But I think they're hoping. I know a lot of fans are hoping because he was always the standout player when he played against us. So yeah, hopefully this goes over the line.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I mean, the next obvious step is for Matt to whack in a transfer request, isn't it? Apparently, that Rotherham advertiser is saying he can double his wages by coming to Portman Road. So there you go,
and the rest. So
there you go, Matt. That's what you need to do. Whack in transfer request. Let's have you at Portman Road sooner rather than later, please. Defense wins championship, boys. We know that. The American owners know that. But Town need to sign defenders. They missed out on Sonny Bradley. They need centre halves more than anything. And Stu, you broke a story yesterday, I think it was. I've kind of lost track of where we are. A left back or utility player, really, from Middlesbrough, Hayden Coulson, brings up to speed with this one.
Yeah, we kind of asked out loud whether Matt Penny had been signed as the starting left back or perhaps a bit of a utility squad player. I think that's looking more like the latter because Ipswich Town are very much in for Hayden Coulson at Middlesbrough. A young player who not that long ago was named Middlesbrough's Young Player of the Season in the Championship after his breakthrough year under Jonathan Woodgate's management when they finished in the bottom half, 17th. I think it was. Off the back of that, he was getting linked with a move to Newcastle for as much as £10 million in some of the nationals. So that's kind of where his status was at not that long ago. And then last season, he slipped down the pecking order a little bit at Middlesbrough. Wasn't really to Neil Warnock's liking. I think was seen as a bit too attack-minded and free-spirited to play in the sort of Neil Warnock system. Neil Warnock likes his defenders to defend and his attackers to attack. And so he didn't really sort of fit into the Neil Warnock way of doing things. They had Marvin Johnson. They had Bowler as well, sort of playing down that left side. So he found his chances limited a bit last season. But he's another one who ticks those versatile boxes that we've talked about. Cook wanting to have a smaller squad with lots of versatile players. He's a left back, but he's played left wing back. He's played left wing. He's played right midfield. He's even played as a number 10. He finished the season sort of playing as a number 10 for Middlesbrough. So we know Cook wants his fullbacks to play like wingers. I've said that plenty of times before. And so I think if this one gets done, he could very well be Ipswich's starting left back heading into the season.
Hutchie, would that excite you? A man who very rarely gets excited, obviously, but how would you feel about Coulson being...
Is that true?
I think so. I've never seen you really excited. Oh, I'll tell you what I have seen you very excited when we talked about kits. That's the most animated I've ever seen you. Particularly, I remember goalkeeper kits, was it? Just
don't get too high with the highs, don't get too low with the lows, and you'll never be disappointed in life. I'm excited. It just doesn't show through my face or arms. Left backs. The thing I like about both of these left backs, Penny and Coulson, is that they can both play. They're both attacking players. It's pretty clear. It's, like Stu says, it's so clear what Paul Cook wants. Wes Burns can play right back and on the wing. Kane Vincent-Young, we know, can attack, and that's what excites me. You've got the fullbacks going on the outside. I think Cook wants his wingers to be a bit tighter coming inside. So like Celina, Appiah here, we're talking about them maybe playing on their wrong foot, coming inside. You've got the fullbacks going down the outside, and that's a really nice style of attacking, high tempo football to watch. And it's pretty clear that these guys fit the mould that Cook wants. And Paul Cook said he'll be happy to be judged after one pre-season and one transfer window with his own players, and it feels like these both Penny and Coulson, I think it's probably right to talk about them as a pair, are his kind of fullback. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Cook can do with that, because all respect to Stephen Ward and to a slightly lesser extent Miles Kenlock, who could attack a little bit more. I'm not sure they were the kind of fullback that Cook really wanted. So to have two potentially, if the Coulson one gets done, is a good base for Paul Cook.
I'm going to stick
There's
with
a bit of a theme emerging here. Sorry, Mark. In terms of, I think we can probably read a little bit into some of the career paths of these players that Ipswich have either signed or are interested in. In terms of Paul Cook, I think is putting a lot of value in players that have shown a great deal of character in putting themselves outside of their comfort zones and taken on different challenges at the different stages of their career. We talked about Matt Penny going and playing a year in Germany, which is not obviously a well-trodden path. Raheem Harper was quite happy to go out on loan to a relegation battling Birmingham side at the back end of last season in his desire to play games and further his career. Coulson was someone that was quite happy at a young age to go and play for two relegation battling sides as a young man, both up at St Mirren in Scotland and Cambridge in League Two as well. So I think I'm starting to see a theme emerging here that he wants players that have got a bit of character about them, that are happy to take on new challenges and push themselves and take themselves outside of their comfort zone. And that excites me, because we talked about it being a quiet team, perhaps a team that a club as a whole that had slipped into a bit of a comfort zone. A lot of these young players that had maybe just been sort of wrapped in the Ipswich Town bubble for a long time. I think a lot of these players are going to be bringing a lot of different experiences from different clubs, different countries. And I think that can only be a good thing.
Celina's massive on that, isn't he? Because obviously Man City he was at for a long time, but he was out on loan here. He was on loan in the Netherlands at FC20, and then to go to Swansea to kind of take yourself out of the Man City bubble to go leave at a relatively young age, actually, compared to some others to leave permanently and go and impress there. He's obviously gone to Dijon, and he's got that swagger about him as well, which is kind of something that Ipswich haven't had for a long time. So I think Celina really fits that description that you've just had there, Stu, as well.
Boys, before we move on, I've got a confession. I don't feel good about it. I've just turned round and looked behind me to see the cable for my microphone. Which I put on the bed while I shut the door. I've been talking into a microphone which is not plugged in. What do I do now, boys? Hutchie, you're our technical advisor. Do I risk plugging it in, or
let's just carry? I think you'll be all right. We'll just have a chat. You mute yourself while you're doing it. Get yourself plugged in, and we'll see how you get on.
The irony here, of course, is shortly before we went on air, started recording, I was berating Stu for his microphone, and then I've completely forgotten to plug mine in, like a complete amateur, rank amateur. So I'm gonna do this. I'll mute myself, boys. Hopefully, I'll be back in a minute.
Who do you want us to talk about?
Lewis Gibson, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lewis Gibson. Stu, were we doing the podcast when he was linked here before? They were very keen on him a few years ago. I think it was when even was that? I can't remember. I think it was before the League One season. In the League One season, at some point, the first one. Left-sided Everton. He's clearly a player with pedigree, isn't he? We've seen him play for Fleetwood, and then he's gone off to Reading. What do you reckon?
Yeah, obvious Everton links with Franny Jeffers, obviously on the coaching staff at Ipswich now. Don't know if he'd come in as a starting centre half necessarily, but again, centre half is a position that Ipswich are short on at the moment. Really, you've only got Luke Wolfenden and Toto Enciala. I still think a proper, experienced, gnarly centre half, potential captaincy material is in the wings. We know that they went for Sonny Bradley and that one didn't come off, but Gibson, I think, would be fit into that sort of bracket that we talked about earlier of these players that fall underneath the salary cap. He's of that same sort of 2000, 2001 born class that we talked about with a Appiah and Harper and others like that. He's a ball-playing centre-half, like you say, left-sided as well, so it ticks a box there. By all accounts, has done pretty well for Fleetwood in this division. Didn't quite happen for him at Reading previously in the Championship, so another one that would be a good addition, I think, for this season, but also be seen as one that, you know, with potential to grow as Ipswich do as a club as well.
I don't know about you guys. I'm kind of willing to let last season slide with any football player, given kind of how strange a season. Like Celina didn't have his best season last year in Dijon. He didn't score a goal for them, but he's moved to France during a pandemic, played in front of no fans, and not been able to be a normal human being like we all haven't over the last year. So Gibson was similar, went to Reading, didn't happen for him, didn't play anywhere near as much as he wanted. But in my mind, in terms of sort of footballers' progressions and career paths, last season almost didn't happen. I kind of wish it actually didn't, having sat through everything that we did for Ipswich. But in my mind, I'm quite keen to. I'm happy to write that off. Mark, Heath, have you changed your mic settings to actually be using this one, or have you just plugged it in?
I've just plugged it in. Is that?
You do sound different. I think you're in the game.
I do.
Right.
I mean, the light's on. I do apologise to all the listeners if I've sounded a bit tinny thus far, because I've basically made it a complete arse of myself by not plugging my microphone in, and I will wear the dunce hat this week. Boys, we've talked there about all the ins, sexy stuff wise. Have we got any updates on potential outs? Again, we record a transfer talk video on Friday, which kind of complicates things in terms of what we talked about on here. I think we had a chat on there, Hutchie, about Flynn Downs, didn't we? And in terms of whether or not Flynn is literally on his way out the door and Town are just waiting for the right amount of money. I think you've done a story since we last spoke about Peter, or was it Stewie? One of the two of you, Peterborough leading the chase, or being interested in Flynn Downs. Is there anything we can say there, boys?
That was me who did that story. Peterborough certainly don't lead the chase. They were certainly very interested, but I think it became quite apparent to them early on that they weren't in a position to do the deal. The vibes I'm getting is that Flynn has, if he is to move, has got his sights set higher than Peterborough, potentially even Barnsley as well. Obviously, Crystal Palace, a Premier League club, came in for him last summer, which led to that transfer request, which I think, looking back, it's always horrible to hear as fans when a player has handed in a transfer request. But I think I said at the time, football careers are short and things can change very quickly. You know, Andre Dazelle was having interest from Liverpool and clubs like that at one stage, and then you're one cruciate knee ligament injury and your whole career is on a different trajectory for a while. So these moments of interest can come and go quite quickly. Flynn has obviously now had injuries of his own off the back of that Palace interest, but there will still be plenty of suitors for him. We know he's a good player. We know he's better than League One. I think Ipswich missed him last season, and that there's a lot of clubs sniffing around him at the moment. And I think that's a transfer situation that's not going to hot up till later in the window. I think the fact that we've got the Euros going on at the moment, sometimes that pushes back some of the business done at the very top end of the game, and then you get the domino effect from there, and suddenly Championship clubs get a bit of money come in, and that opens up their situation to do some things. So he's still training with the 23s, Flynn Downs. I'd be surprised if he's involved at Dartford, along with the likes of Kenlock, Jackson and Bishop, who are obviously among those that have started pre-season with the 23s. I think Flynn departing will happen, but my hot take is it won't happen till a bit later in the window, that one.
What's a reasonable amount for Flynn Downs, Ross? We know that Palace offered 1.6 million last summer, way off the 8 million that Town were talking about or valuing him at. They're not going to get anywhere near that now. If you're Ipswich Town, if you're Mark Ashton, you're Mike O'Leary, you're game changer, what is a reasonable amount to sell Flynn Downs for, do you reckon?
Oh, I'm the worst person to ask this question because I do not have a clue. But put the Mark
you're a fan.
suit on.
What would you think is?
Well, with the season he just had and the injuries, and we're still in League One, I don't know. We probably won't get much for him. Maybe 2 million. I don't know. Is that possibly 2 million? Maybe. I think that's. But I don't think we'll get that. I don't think we'll get that, will we?
The boys shaking their heads. You're not going to get more than that 1.6 million bid, are you, boys? Given what's happened since,
I think you're looking more at the Andre Dazelle level, million. Hopefully a million, and you can negotiate something into there to protect yourself clause wise. That would be my hope for Flynn Downs now.
Okay. Any other outgoing updates, boys? Sorry, Stu, you're going to step in there.
No, I was just going to say, we talked about obviously the 4 players with the 23s, and I think it's pretty clear that there's a chance that all of those will move on this summer. Potentially even ones that are in that first team squad at the moment, someone like Janoy Donatian as well. So there's every chance that they could be used as a bit of leverage to do some business at some stage as well. Chuck them in as kind of make weights. I semi-wonder whether that might happen with Rotherham and Crooks at some stage. You'd think that some of those players may appeal to a club like them. So I think you're going to see a lot more of. I haven't seen loads of it in the transfer market so far. It always kind of comes out in phases, the transfer market. So the first phase that we've kind of seen is out of contract players. There's a bit of a race to kind of snap them up. Then it kind of moves on to fees when that's settled down. And I think that this year we're going to see feedback on the line there. We're going to see, I think, a lot more kind of swap deals and a lot more player trading going on this summer. And then the loans tend to kind of happen further down the line as well. So I think we're kind of entering phase 2 of the transfer window now.
Like it. Anything else to mention, Hutchie, before we move on from sexy stuff?
Probably by the time this comes out, we might have a story on our sites about Teddy Bishop. I think he's got suitors. I think of the ones that are in the, let's call them the bomb squad, of the ones that are there at the moment, I think he may be the one closest to a move away, potentially. Lincoln, Portsmouth, MK Dons, three in League One that would be keen on him, and we'll see. He would be one that I think might depart sooner rather than later, sadly.
I like that, Hutchie, teasing the listeners. It's also seamless because now you need to go and read the story when it's online. So there you go. Teddy Bishop update. Go and check that out online. Hopefully it'll be up by the time you're listening to this. I should, before we move on, boys, just apologise again to the listeners because the boy B Unit's barged his way into the studio and is currently sleeping to my left. So no doubt that will be getting picked up. You also may hear something that sounds like a goose honking at some point. Unfortunately, we think that he may have kennel cough. And I'm actually awaiting a call from the vet, so you might get breaking news updates on that as well. So if you do hear what sounds like a demented goose trying to cough up a frog, that I'm afraid will be my dog. But he's currently fast asleep, so I'm not going to start fighting with him to get him out the door. And unfortunately, you can't stop him coming through the door because he's a bulldog and he just walks through any door with his big fat head. Right then, boys. Before we talk about more exciting stuff, I should also point out, of course, that we're sponsored by manscaped.com. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for free delivery and 20% off all their stuff. I'm going to be investing, friends, in a weed whacker this week. I was away this weekend. Part of that involved dressing up all posh like to go out for a nice meal. I looked in the mirror before going out and I had what appeared to be a plant growing out of my ear. So I'm very much in need of said weed whacker to clean out one's ears and nose. I have, unfortunately. Oh, you've got a weed whacker, Hutchie. There we go. I assume that is a quality bit of clobber like everything else that KOA do. That KOA, Manscaped do. Obviously, we make these now. Can you recommend that? I mean, that's just totally impromptu, but you pulled it out now. So,
what do you tell me? What do you think?
Your nose looks pretty hairless to me, my friend. How about the ears? Are they all in trim now?
So it's not really an issue for me, but I'll keep on top of it because I've got the right tools for the job.
Exactly. And I assume you bought that using the code KOA. Did you, Hutchman?
Yep. Superb.
I also want to just a peek behind the curtain time. We get reads every now and then, friends, KOA Army, telling us what to say about Manscaped stuff, or loosely based. You may have heard all of us, I think, apart from Ross, talking about the Manscaped products at the start of the show.
You might have heard him at the start of this show.
Oh, is there a Roscoe one? Superb. One of the ones we've been sent away from football. Obviously, the Euros are happening at the moment, but there's another big thing happening this weekend, which is Conor McGregor's coming back to fight Dustin Poirier in the UFC, which is obviously a major thing. Conor McGregor, probably the biggest sporting star in the world, and thus Manscaped have sent us a read, which involves around the UFC, which I'm not going to read all of it out, but I like this line. Manscaped is here to ensure your favourite fighter doesn't miss weight because of their pubes. There you go. Make of that what you will. So Connor's obviously in the process of cutting weight at the moment. He might think, get a few extra grams off, get rid of the old...
Is that happening a lot? He hasn't made the weight. He's too hairy below the waist.
What you do see happen a lot is fighters taking their pants off on the scales to cut. You'd be surprised how heavy pants are, boys. The amount of times I've seen people shed the underwear and suddenly make weight. But after the weekend I've had, indulging extravagant food-wise, if there's any way I can lose weight, which involves shaving my entire body using Manscaped products, that's what I'll be doing. There you go. Boys, let's move on because there's some really exciting news. We've talked about the sexy stuff. There's some really exciting news, which I know Roscoe's excited about. Fans are going to be back, baby. All social distancing, etc. Looks like it's going to be lifted July 19th, which means August the 7th, fans are going to be back at Portman Road for the big kickoff. It's going to be 30,000 fans in there. Ed Sheeran's going to do a mini impromptu concert. The new owners are going to be there, clad entirely in Ipswich Town gear and waving stars and stripes. We're going to have a flyover from F-15s from RAF Lake and Heath, and Town are then going to beat Morecambe 18-0. Roscoe, how excited are you that fans are going to be back at Portman Road?
Buzzing. Absolute buzzing. It's going to be bounced. Oh, we've got to talk about the friendlies as well at Portman Road. Millwall, Crystal Palace.
Don't you worry, my friend. They're on the list. But first of all, let's just talk about fans coming back.
It's been 18 months, since... I know we had the December fixtures where there was a few fans in the ground, but that wasn't, it was cold and we were rubbish. But now with the excitement of the new signings, I think the first 11 is going to be pretty much all new players. The new kit looks nice and just fans have just been gagging. That's probably not the right word to use, but possibly just wanting to get back in the stadium. And it's a relief, to say the least, because, I'm sure we were thinking, asking me loads of restrictions, masks here, and they're going to be there. I'm sure the Morecambe fans are excited as well to come down to Portman Road because they probably won't bring that many, but I'm sure they're excited that at least there's no restrictions for away grounds. Excited. And the group chat's been blowing up that I've been in because they can't wait. Even like good old Harvey Davis, the Sweet Welsh Prince, he's looking forward to travelling down to Portman Road because now there's no restrictions. So yeah, looking forward to it.
Stewie, I want you to paint pictures with your words here. How big an event is that going to be on August 7th? And can you also, you've obviously in a privileged position, you've covered football for the past year while there's been no fans in the ground. Can you describe just how soulless that experience has been and how much you're looking forward to fans being back?
The soulless experience of covering football behind closed doors cannot be overestimated. Andy touched upon it earlier. It's been pretty miserable. It's been a pale imitation of the game we know and love. It's a reminder to everybody in the game just how important fans are. We keep hearing the phrase, football without fans is nothing. I think football as an industry has probably needed that reminder at times that fans increasingly were kind of being treated just as a number and their loyalty was maybe taken for granted at times. So I hope that's provided a bit of a reset. But that first game of the season is always magic, isn't it? Normally the sun's blazing in August. There's that sense of renewed hope that we all get, no matter how bad the previous season has been. It's that reset in the summer, isn't it? There's some new signings. Anything can happen. This could be our year. The sense that people are walking to the ground with that level of excitement. As I say, the sun's out. And that's just going to be times multiplied by, I don't know how many, tenfold this time, because it's going to be the first time in 12, 18 months that fans have been back as well. Just watching the games at the Euros, just seeing those full stadiums for the hungry games and hearing the noise and seeing the limbs and the excitement when goals have gone in, and it's just made me smile and just thought, I can't wait. Proper football is going to be back, and that's what it's all about, because it just didn't really seem to mean much last season, did it? Really?
No.
There is no better day. Well, I think there are a few better days, I've got to be honest, in any calendar, sporting or otherwise, than the first day of the football season, for the reasons that Stu's just said. There's something, it happens in all sports with seasons. Obviously, you get that reset and we go again. But there's something about football where everything is possible, isn't it, on that first day? As Stewie says, the sun is pretty much always out. And this time, Hutchie, at Portman Road on August the 7th, it's going to be a day almost like any other, isn't it? Because there's so much that's changed at Ipswich Town since fans were last there, since they last kicked a ball in earnest, even without fans. It's going to be extraordinary, isn't it? That first game.
It's like a rebirth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Of a football club, almost like the Phoenix from the Flames.
Phoenix Rising.
Yeah, exactly. Just there's so many reasons to be optimistic. Stu's right. Every year, you convince yourself that this year could be the year that those players that you watched for the last 12 months they didn't quite click. But you know what? If he plays a little bit further forward as a fullback, this whole team could change. But this year it's so different because it's going to be a completely new side. The possibilities are endless. I guess for the season. Whether that's still the case come mid-September when Ipswich are 15th in League One, I don't know. I hope that's not the case. But I hope the owners are able to get over. I know they're planning to. There obviously a lot of that will depend on what's required in terms of isolation and travel from the US and things like that. But there's a definite desire for them to be here. I'm looking forward to them seeing what they've bought, and I'm looking forward to Ipswich fans and us kind of seeing what they're beginning to create. It's going to be a real fascinating day where everyone feels at the start of a new journey, and it's going to be really exciting. It's going to be a really good day.
Everything seems so much more vivid, doesn't it, on the first day of the season? Everyone's got their crisp new shirts on. I don't know. There just seems to be more colour and noise. I don't know if you invent that in your own mind, but to me, that's kind of how it feels on that first day of the season.
Yeah, the pitch is perfect, isn't it? The sprinklers, the sprinklers always have to go on, which personally I think really helps sort of that feeling of freshness. The sprinklers are on because it's a hot August day. You need a bit of zip in that pitch certainly for a Paul Cook team, for players to kind of move the ball around and run, and it just looks perfect, and hopefully a big crowd as well. I'm not sure how many they can get in there, but I'd hope it would be certainly into the 20s, if not a little bit higher. So
that's making me tingle already, boys, just thinking about that first day of the football season is such a special day, and the owners are definitely going to be there, boys. Let's be honest, they're filthy rich. Rules don't apply to them. They'll be there come hell or high water. They'll be there, and it'll be tremendous to see them, and it's going to be a tremendous day. Also, of course, tremendous, and we're starting the big build up to the big kickoff this weekend. Town fans are actually going to be able to watch their side play for the first time since December at Dartford. If you had that on the betting slip, next time fans are going to be at game, Dartford away, you've won £1 million. But again, this weekend, boys, there's a capacity of 2,000 at Prince's Park. I know a lot of tickets have already been sold. More than half, when I spoke to Dartford last week, have gone to Town fans. Stu, are you looking forward to this weekend? What are you hoping to see at Dartford on Saturday?
Looking forward to seeing some fans in the stadium, first and foremost, which will be nice. And then obviously seeing some of the new boys in action. Be interested to see what sort of shape they're in. Paul Cook, we've seen some footage from the early stages of pre-season training, and fitness is the word coming from him in quite colourful language in some of those training sessions. We know that that's going to be a big part of it. So, let's see. I mean, these early pre-season games are. I never read too much into them. I've seen seasons where Ipswich have been really good in pre-season and then rubbish when the real thing starts, and vice versa. But just be nice to see some of the new boys in action and just to enjoy it as a day out for everybody, really.
Can I just say, from the training pictures as well last week, I didn't realise, actually, you put me right on this, that Lee Evans is such a unit. He looked.
Yeah, he's not small.
There's a picture of his back, and a big back is important in terms of athletes, and he has a back like a Colombian butterfly swimmer. He's got a tremendous back on him. Must deadlift a ton. And that just brought home to me what kind of athletes we're going to have at Town this season. They're going to be, I mean, God, if they get Matt Crooks as well, absolute tank in midfield alongside the likes of Lee Evans. They're going to be super fit and super physical, aren't they, this season, Hutchie? That seems to be the way they're going.
Yeah. I even the footballers that you think are slight are like absolutely stacked, though. Like Flynn Downs, you wouldn't call him a tank, but if you look at him with his top off, which I have,
You do frequently,
he is absolutely ripped. Like that. Even the ones that aren't sort of big, like you would think, like Teddy Bishop is in really, really good shape. They're just haven't necessarily got that height. But yeah, Lee Evans is a big boy. He's over 6 foot. He's certainly not kind of an Alan Judge kind of stature. But yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. I'd see if they're all good to go and good to play at the weekend. I think it is more of a day of kind of excitement rather than learning anything. And Andy Rolls, the new head of performance, has said that this it's a training session. This game, it's just a different training session, and that for them the real quiz is the later games, which I kind of take to mean Palace, then Colchester on that Tuesday, and then Millwall as the 3. I think they're the 3, and I'd bet a lot of money that there's a significant number of new players by then as well. That they're the 3 where you're going to see how this team's shaping up potentially. But this is an extension of training, but it's an extension of training that hundreds of Ipswich fans and us, we're all going to get to witness, and we're going to see the new kit. We're going to see a nice green grass. We're going to see new players. We're going to hear Paul Cook shouting away on the touchline, and it's all going to feel quite nice and normal again. So that's what this day's for. It's kind of a soft launch of what is going to be a really, really exciting couple of months at the very least.
Yeah, and we're all going to be there. Me and Rossi, we're going to be milling around outside before and after the game, and during the game inside the ground. So I know a lot of the KOA Army are going to be there. So come over and chat to us. We'll be looking for people to chat to about.
Get your photos, get your autographs from Mark and Ross.
That's not where I was going, but yeah, I mean, absolutely. Clearly, the most interest will be for you, Hutchie, now that you're a verified personality on Twitter. But as I was saying, come and talk to us because we want to get some fans on video talking about the season and what's happening and how excited you are. It'd be great to see you all. So that's where we'll be Saturday. Roscoe, how excited are you about getting out and about and actually being at a game again? Because it's been a while.
Yeah, I'm sick of my spare room in my house now. I'm just looking outside right now. It's raining at the moment, but yeah, I'm sure it will be just a relief just to be at a football game. I know I've been lucky, like the lads. I was able to go to the behind closed doors games at Port Road, and that was just soulless. But to be at a non-league ground, see the beers flowing, burgers. Hopefully they'll be selling burgers so I can have a cheeky burger.
If you see Ross Halls with a burger, I want a picture of. I want someone to go and get a picture of Ross Halls with a burger, please. If anyone can produce that,
there'll be a prize for anyone who gets a picture of Ross mid burger.
Another burger. I'll buy someone a burger if they can get the picture.
Yeah.
But no, look forward to it.
It's going to be good, right then, boys. Anything else town-wise?
Hashtag burger bar. Just use that hashtag. That'd be great.
Yeah, BUH, I think, is the official spelling of SPA, isn't it? Yeah,
we'll go with that.
We'll go with that. Boys, anything else on the town tip to mention? Because, of course, we have to finish by talking about England. So anything else you want to talk about town-wise before we jump to the Euros?
No other town business.
England are on the verge of the Euro 2020. Still sounds odd saying that. Final. They play Denmark tomorrow night as we record this. Last week, I think Ross and Hutchie were fairly down. Although, Hutchie, you did predict a win. Me and Roscoe both predicted defeats to the old enemy, Germany. Stu, you were bang up for it. You predicted a win on penalties. Thank God it didn't go to that. How are we feeling, boys, about this? Because since then, they've done something that's most un-England-like, really, which is cruise through games. They absolutely tonked Ukraine on Saturday, 4-0. This doesn't happen at major championships for England, certainly not in my lifetime. And now they've got a very winnable game against Denmark on Wednesday night. How are you feeling about it, Stewie?
I've never felt this confident comfortable in an England team. It's a very odd feeling seeing that Ukraine game unfold. It almost felt, in a weird way, kind of after the Lord Mayor's show from the Germany game, there was no real tension in the air watching it, which we're accustomed to with watching England. We've almost been very Germany-like, haven't we? You know, if this was Germany, we'd be looking at them jealously going, so efficient, so understated. You know, they just come to the party when it's tournament football, haven't conceded a goal, have rotated the squad quite nicely, have adapted to different tactics. It does feel like we're never going to get a better chance than this with the games at Wembley and the way the draws unfolded and everything. And yet it's so deeply, deeply ingrained in us that you just can't help but fear that, Denmark, it's just something about them. There's a bit of fate about them with everything that's happened with Ericsson. And you look back to 92 when they were pulled off the beach and went and won it. And I don't know, but that's just superstition talking, really. If I put all of that emotion to one side and analyse the cold hard facts of it, we're looking in damn good shape, I have to say.
We are indeed. Hutchie, you starting to feel a little tingle as yet in your England?
I love watching it. I don't think I'll ever be a huge England football fan, in terms of shirts and St George's flags and stuff. But I don't know, it's just not my vibe. But I watch it. I'm fascinated by it. I absolutely love watching England in major tournaments. And I do think they'll win. They haven't conceded a goal as a team, have they? My only slight worry is if they were to concede one early, just how they'd react to that. But no, I think they'll win. I think they're going to get to the final, and then Ross has to decide who to support, because I think Italy are going to get to the final too.
This is what I was going to come on to, Roscoe. If Italy and England are in the final, which you'd have to say at the moment would probably be the bookies' tip, who are you going to support?
Whoever wins, because I'm a glory hunter.
So no,
you can't do that.
That's the worst possible answer. You're not going to have one of those dreadful half and half scarves, are you?
No. Half and half shirt as well.
Yeah, you have to attach your colours to the mast right now, here and now, Roscoe. Italy, England in the final. If it happens, who do you want to win?
It's got to be England, because I live here and I've only ever gone to Italy for a 2 or 3 week holiday and see family in Italy, but I've lived here all my life, and as you can hear from my accent, I'm very much English. But I'm proud of the Italian boys, and that should be a very tasty final if it does happen. But yeah,
I think that is going to be. I think that will be the final.
Shall we finish with predictions then, boys? Hutchie, you're saying England win. What do you reckon score will be?
2-0. I think fairly. Ooh. I think fairly comfortable. If I'm completely honest, they're just a really solid football team. I think Sterling's going to score again. He's been brilliant. I've never really got why he gets so much criticism. He'd have been in my starting 11 for England all day long from the start of this tournament. I think he's going to score again, and I think they'll make the final fairly comfortably.
2-0. Rossi, what are you saying?
Well, I'm definitely not going to do what Sergi did, predicting Ukraine to win on penalties in the quarterfinal. I don't know what the lad was on that morning when I spoke to him.
I guess he had to say that, didn't he? Yeah. Didn't really play out like that.
No. I'm like Hutchie, really. I think we could win this game comfortably. But then Denmark, they've got that great team spirit. You know, what happened to Christian Eriksen, which, that was horrible scenes, weren't it? But I think we'll have too much for Denmark. And I think we're going to win 2-0 as well.
Stewie, you obviously think England are going to go through, do you?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I really don't want to tempt fate. I get a bit superstitious talking about it, really. But I can't see beyond us going through. I mean, I look at it, and Chilwell and James were probably two of the best players in the Chelsea team that won the Champions League final not that long ago, and they're not even getting in the team. And you've got Luke. And I looked at that and I questioned that, not that long ago. And now you've got Shaw coming up with the assists on one side, and we've got suddenly Foden can't get in the team, and we've got Grealish as an option off the bench. It's just, I love Gareth Southgate. I just think he's an complete antithesis to everything in sort of modern day society, where sort of big egos and people who talk a good game sort of make their way to the top. And Gareth Southgate is just so genuine and speaks with complete empathy. And I just think he's very statesman-like. And I just really proud to have him as England manager. And I just for him and the way he's kind of mentored this young squad, I just really hope it happens for him and the whole nation. It would be such a boost. It already has been.
I thought it was particularly interesting after the win on Saturday. One of the first things he said was his main concern was about the players who didn't play and who weren't even in the squad and keeping them as part of the team and that kind of thing, which is incredible, really, as a manager to be thinking about players aren't even in the squad and how they're feeling about various things. He truly does have an excellent approach as a manager. However, boys, I'm going to predict a defeat because last week I predicted a defeat to the Germans and we won quite comfortably in the end, and obviously then beat Ukraine. So I'm going to stick with my superstition of backing against England, hoping they will then prove me wrong, as so many people do in life. So I'm going to say England are going to go out, hoping that England go through. And England-Italy final would be brilliant. Right, England-Spain final would be good, but England-Italy would be superb. Right then, boys, we are now at an hour, 16 minutes, maybe a little bit less, because we had a pre-match meeting, which is a good length for a podcast. Any other business, boys, before we take our leave and start chasing up some more transfer stuff and talking about England?
No other business.
Roscoe's got something.
Business.
Football's coming home, baby. Football's coming home.
To Italy, is that? Okay, that just leaves me then to say make sure you look out for the KOA fan social, which is coming out to you. Is it Friday morning? It goes out now, Rossi, under the new banner of fan social. Is there a Tractor Girls talk being planned for this week? When's the next one of those?
Potentially, depends if there's any news that drop because
okay,
yeah.
So keep an eye out on our channel for that. That's Ross and Katie Sandals talking about the Ipswich Town ladies team, which has been promoted, and follow us across all our social medias. That's Kings of Angler on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. Particularly YouTube, please subscribe to that because you want to get up to 2K subscribers, and there's lots of video exclusive stuff dropping on there. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. Leave us a 5-star review on iTunes, and of course use code KOA at manscaped.com to get 20% off and free delivery. Be that a testicle trimmer or a weed whacker for the nose and ears. I also want to say, as I finish, we had a comment on YouTube last week that I swore too much from a man ironically called Dick Smith. Oh, and there he is. So, Dick, you made the valid point that young people watch this show on YouTube. And I was too profane. So I'd like to say that I've got through the entire show without saying F or B or anything else, or indeed a mild swear word. So there you go, Dick. I hope you're proud of me. I'm proud of myself because that's as long as I can go without swearing. Hope you all have an excellent week. Enjoy the England game. Fingers crossed England get through. And by the time we next talk, well, we're going to talk at Dartford, obviously. Ipswich Town will have a slew more signings than England would have won Euro 2020. Have a fantastic week, and we'll speak to you next time, friends.